Hi everyone, and welcome to our session today. My name is Trina Saunders. I head up marketing here at Actionstep, and I'm joined by my colleague Tyler Bannerman, who is a senior account executive here at Actionstep. So we are going to talk to you today about winning and wowing your clients with Actionstep. This is actually part of a marketing and business development series for law firms. And today we're focused on content marketing and how law firms can implement content marketing to win new clients and ultimately keep them happy throughout their journey with your firm. So first of all, just to look at what we're going to cover today in terms of our session agenda. So first of all, I want to cover off why content marketing actually works for law firms, how you might start to develop a content strategy, what are the things that you should be thinking about in order to create a content strategy. I really want to dig into some practical content formats and types that work for law firms, that I've seen law firms utilize really well. And then we're going to touch on distribution. So how are you going to get your content out to your potential clients? And then when you do actually get it out to them, how are you going to capture them as leads and develop them into clients? And then Tyler's going to take over and he's going to talk to you about a number of things related to Actionstep that can really help to bring the rest of the journey to life. So once we've gone through the content marketing piece, we're going to talk about how Actionstep can help you to really wow your clients at the end of the day. So initially, I just want to touch on why we're starting with content marketing as part of this marketing and business development series for law firms. And the reason is because I feel very passionate about content marketing and the value that it has for law firms. Although I currently work for Actionstep, which is a legal software business, my background is actually in legal marketing. I spent over 10 years leading the marketing and business development functions for large law firms in the US and in Europe. And through that time, we had a number of different challenges. We weathered huge recessions, and then in other times we enjoyed fantastic periods of growth in those law firms' client base. And to me, the consistent path to success in both of those very diverse situations was how these law firms positioned themselves in their markets as go-to firms on particular themes or areas of law. And really that came down to a really strong content marketing strategy that was very focused on the clients, on the base of clients that they wanted to grow. So why does content marketing actually work for law firms? The reason I believe is because typically it's quite hard for law firms to convey their value before they actually get to work with clients as clients. So when you're talking to a prospect, you might talk about your track record, you might have found them through a referral from another colleague or from another law firm, and that might validate to them the work that you've done. But content can actually help you showcase what you offer up front. It also means that you don't necessarily have to sell your services directly. You can simply talk about what you know and gain interest because of that. So by consistently sharing content, you can become a resource for prospects on a particular topic, on a particular theme, on things that matter to them. And actually not just to prospects, but to your peers, to your colleagues, to others in the legal market who might turn to you for your insights and your knowledge on a particular area. The second thing really is that the content you produce can really give prospects a sense of what it might be like to work with you before they actually are working with you. They get a sense of how you communicate, how you think, how you approach matters, and it gives you an opportunity to connect with them on their level. So what are the issues that matter to them? How can you resonate with them and their challenges and reassure them that you can help them? So it's a nice way to connect with prospects on a sort of a human-to-human level. And then the third thing is that content marketing really is a lead magnet. By producing content, you're putting more of you and your knowledge and your expertise out there into the world. It's generally easier for you to get found if you have more of your content and knowledge out there to be found. Content is a lead magnet because prospects might find an article that you've written or a video that you've made or liked how you talked about an issue, and they'll seek you out for your help. They want you to help them to face similar issues because they like the way that you approach that particular topic. I always describe content as being like breadcrumbs, and the goal is to bring prospects home. And in this case, your home is your website or a blog or wherever the sort of content hub is for you or your firm. It just needs to be somewhere that they can get in touch with you. And so content is like breadcrumbs. It's bringing people back to where they can actually get in touch with you. It's important to remember that content is not new to law firms. Law firms have been developing content since law firms began. Your job is to think about your clients and the situations that they're facing. You think about how they can de-risk those situations. You think about how the law might be changing, how they need to protect themselves as a result of that, or how that might enable them and their businesses to thrive. So the purpose of content marketing is really just about capturing that thought process and the work that you already do and putting it into a much more consumable way so that you're able to attract more clients to your business. Now, we could do a whole session on content strategy, but I really want to get some practical applications of content marketing in front of you, just to give you some ideas that you can take away and you can run with and you can start with. But I do want to just very briefly touch on content strategy and how you actually develop that. So how you can start thinking about developing a content strategy at your firm. And the main thing really here that I would say is that your content strategy should be developed around who you're trying to win as clients. Who are you actually targeting? Who is your core base of clients? Who is your ideal reader? Who's your ideal consumer of your content? So in an ideal world, if you're to fast forward in a year's time, what would your client base look like? What would be your ideal version of that? And those are the people or the businesses that you want to target with your content. So think about their interests. What are they already interested in? What should they be interested in? What are the things that you know are coming down the line that they may not be aware of, or they may not be aware that there's a significant impact for them? Maybe they don't grasp the magnitude of it, and you have an opportunity to really explain it to them and help them to deal with it. The next thing is, do you actually have the expertise to talk about this particular topic or theme or area of practice? Do you have that experience? Do you have enough? Do you need to partner with others within your firm or elsewhere to develop the expertise? Next, think about your audience again and what format they like to receive information in. Typically, do your current clients or your target clients like to receive information via video, via email, written white papers? What are the sort of formats that they seem to enjoy? Do you know? If you don't know, then maybe that's an opportunity for some experimentation. And the final thing is, what channels are you going to actually distribute your content through? How are you going to get to your target audience? Where are they? Do they live in email? Do they live in social media? Do they visit your website? How do they actually look for information right now? Where do they exist? And really, the main thing about developing a content strategy sometimes is to just start, to do a tactical thing and develop things from there. Just start with one thing, do it consistently, make it a little better each time. And each time you get a little bit of feedback, or you reread it, or you rewatch it, you might want to change a few things and make it better, and just iterate. And then from there you can build out and do a little bit more. And look, the law firms that do content marketing really, really well are just doing content consistently. They're producing content consistently, they're talking about similar themes, and they're also talking to the same audiences again and again. And that's why they're successful, and that's how they build up a reputation in that area of law or on that topic of expertise. Okay, now let's dig into the practicalities of content production. So I'm going to just focus on the types of content that I have seen work really well for law firms. So assuming that you know from our content strategy slide who you are speaking to with your content and what topics that they're interested in or that they should know about, what kinds of things should you start to produce? What formats or types of content should you be thinking about first? So these are just 4 examples of content types that I have seen work really well for law firms. They're relatively easy to produce. They can be produced as an individual or as a firm-wide effort. So no matter what size your law firm is, or maybe you're just on your own, as long as you set yourself a cadence to producing some of, or maybe all of these things, and stick to it, these are helpful both for generating leads for new prospects and for nurturing your current clients. And that's the key, because a lot of this content actually is about helping your current client relationships as well, and really bedding down and reassuring them that you're the right person to continue working with. So the first one is firm news, and to me really this is table stakes content for you and your firm to be producing. It is very straightforward, and if you have a website or any other platform, you should be utilizing it to keep your clients and your network up to date on firm developments. So this might be things like team updates, promotions or new additions to your team. It might be that you have developed a new service line or practice specialism. It could be that you've had a really successful case, or it could be that one of you have won a prize or have been acknowledged in some way by the industry. So those are simple things that you can talk about, and your website should be kept up to date with these things always. So when people come and see your website, they know that you're up to date and that you're a forward-thinking firm. The next bucket then is topic expertise and legal commentary. And this is really an opportunity to demonstrate your expertise, as we touched on earlier. This area really is about identifying trends or changes that are likely to impact your clients and your prospects. So if there are regulatory or legislative changes that are about to happen, or if there are trends in the market that you're seeing, what should your clients or your prospects be considering or planning for? How should they tackle these issues? How do they prepare for these issues? Should they be getting a team ready to deal with this? How do they safeguard against things that they might not expect? And you can produce content in a variety of ways that covers off topics like this. It might be simple checklists or steps to cover off. It might be key questions or considerations to ask themselves in order to prepare. Or it might be something that helps them to prioritize what actually matters to businesses like theirs. I would have a small note of caution here, is that because you might be writing or talking about regulatory or legislative changes, there can be somewhat of a default button for lawyers to get into the real nitty-gritty of the legislation or the history of the courts on this particular topic. And really I would try and keep it very high level. Think about the broad strokes. What are the top issues that businesses or people should be thinking about? What's going to really matter to them? And don't really get into too much of the detail. You really think about writing in plain English. The third bucket then are client case studies or testimonials. These are a great way to really give that deep insight into how you work with clients. Obviously, you're going to ask for your client's permission before you produce any of these. And really what you're trying to do with these case studies is just set the scene. So look, what were they facing? What were they trying to achieve? What was the predicament that they might have been in? How did your firm set about handling that case or that matter? What was the strategy that you employed? How did you work with the client to really identify what was important in this particular case or matter? What were they hoping would be the outcome from that case? And how did you achieve that? What were the benefits to the clients? And ideally within these, you can weave absolutes or pretty hardcore data throughout the case study so that it's very clear to the reader or to the listener or the watcher of the video that you've achieved something really, really tangible. And then the final thing that's really important to thread throughout this type of content is, what are the lessons learned for other clients? What could other clients or other prospects learn from that case study? What should they take away and make sure that they do in their business world or they do in their personal lives to help them with similar issues? The fourth bucket then that I've identified is market insight. And this is one that I know many lawyers and their teams find probably the hardest of these four to execute. But I have to say that it actually has the most potential to really differentiate you and your firm from your competitors or from other lawyers. And the reason is because it really gives you an opportunity to show your connectedness in the market. It also gives you an opportunity to connect on a very human level with issues that you might be seeing in the market before they've even got talked about in a more formal way by yourself or other firms. And these could be really small little snippets that you're just sharing on a regular basis to show your network that you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in their market. Perhaps you've attended an event and you could share the key takeaways, or take a picture of one of the slides, or share a quote from a speaker that was at that event, or share a snippet of a conversation that you might have had with somebody over the food station. Now, I know events are thin on the ground these days, obviously with COVID-19, and many of these are virtual, and so there's no reason why you can't do this in a virtual format. It doesn't have to be all event-based. It could be that you had a conversation with a client today that sparked an insight that you hadn't had before, and maybe that insight would be valuable to others, and you could just write a quick note about that. So this sort of very casual content helps you to demonstrate your connectedness in the market. So just as general guidance in terms of practical formats for content for law firms, there are a couple of key things here. You have to force yourself to be brief. Nobody wants to read much more than 1 page or maybe 2 pages on an issue. Perhaps if it's something really major, you might do more than that, but keep it brief as much as possible. The next thing is to always keep your audience in mind. You're not writing for other lawyers. You are not writing for in-house counsel. You are writing for the end user at the end of the day. So who are the clients, who are the business people behind this, or who are the individuals who are being impacted by a particular issue? So be guided by their interests and also their level of interest. How deep do you need to go to hold their interest? I would also make sure that any content you produce, whether it's visual or audio or written, that it is really scannable. You know, can people fast forward through and pick out a few snippets? Can people scan a document and see the main points in call-outs or quotes or headings or bullets? Or can you use infographics to bring some of your content to life? I would really, really emphasize that perfection is the enemy of the good here. It's all about progress. It's all about iteration. And really getting some content out there is the most important thing, and doing it consistently. And that brings me on to my final point on this slide, which is really around developing a schedule that's realistic for content production. If it's you or if it's you and a team, you need to agree on a realistic pattern of producing content. You know, 2 or 3 pieces a month might seem like a relatively small amount, but that's actually quite a lot of work. So what's the drafting or the approval process going to be? Who needs to sign off on it? Is there some kind of quality control that needs to happen? Should one person hold the pen in terms of the voice of the firm? Those are things that you really need to work out in advance and make sure that you don't have, you know, a wild west of content being produced with no clear voice and no clear consistency across the bandwidth of what you're doing. I just wanted to share some nice examples that I've found recently online that different law firms have produced on very different topics. And so if you're a business-focused law firm, B2B law firm, or if you're focused on individual concerns like family law or something like that, there's no reason why these types of content shouldn't work for you in your situation. On the left-hand side here, there is a really nice infographic showing simple rules of giving good testimony, for example. So it's really nicely laid out. There's do's and don'ts there. There's, it's nicely patterned 1, 2, 3, 4 with some good graphics to bring it to life. Similarly, that top blue infographic there, using a similar model of bringing data and bringing steps to life with graphics and colors on a totally different topic, GDPR. And then simple articles that you could post to your blog or to your website that's just nicely paragraphed out into bullets so that it's easy to read, easy to scan. And on the right hand side here, actually this is very writing heavy, but what they've done is they've just introduced some nice graphics just to kind of break up the content and make it easy to read and to scan. So it doesn't need to be a massive design exercise to get some of your content into play in your marketplace. You just have to be simple, consistent, and like I say, make it easy to digest. Next, on to distribution. So how are you actually going to get the content that you've produced out to your clients? And really the decisions around what channels you use to get to your clients is down to where your clients actually exist. Where do they live already? Where do they spend their time? And I referenced this previously. So first of all, you do need to have a central hub that you're going to put all of your content into, because that should be the absolute version of everything that you've talked about. So that might be a blog, it might be your website, it might be a social media page. It doesn't have to be a fully developed website. Then I would absolutely take a multi-channel approach, which means that you're using lots of different platforms to get the content to the audience that you're trying to reach. So you will for sure put it on your blog, on your website. You might send it out to clients or to prospects via email. You might use a publication that you're engaged with to publish it. You might engage with your bar association and ask them to publish it as part of their newsletter. So there are many ways that you can get your content out there. And really it's just about, again, developing fairly consistent distribution channels and making sure that the format that you produce that content in is right for those distribution channels. I'm going to just take a moment to talk about social media. Law firms and lawyers, I think, have a love-hate relationship with social media. The fact is, it's a great channel for law firms, and most of the audiences that law firms are targeting will exist on social media in one form or another. It's super accessible for you as a lawyer, as an individual, as a firm, and it's also super accessible for your audience. I think social media can be perceived as being daunting, or it can almost feel like an obligation, and people are worried about sharing too much or saying the wrong thing. But really, if you just think about it as an extension or an expansion of your current relationships and your network, and speak to them as you would speak in person, it takes all of the stress out of how you engage with social media. Now, if you're a bigger firm, you might have a marketing team who are running your social media for you, and in that case you need to partner with them and explain to them what you'd really like to do on social media yourself as an individual, and just make sure that plays into what they might be doing for your firm overall. Again, because in today's world we have much fewer opportunities to engage with clients face to face. We're not attending events, we're not picking up coffees with clients, we're not casually meeting them face to face. Social media really can fill that gap. It offers a platform to connect with people and keep yourself top of mind when you can't be in front of them. So here are my golden rules on social media for lawyers, and it's summarised in a handy word: pace. So first of all, have a very clear purpose. So what are you actually using social media for? We've talked about content sharing, but why? Is it that you're trying to build your own individual reputation? Is it that your firm is trying to develop expertise in a particular practice specialisation and you want to make sure that that is known? Is it that you want to find out what others are doing? You actually want to listen in perhaps on some of your competitors or some of your peers? Do you want to feel part of a community? Do you want to hear what's happening in a particular community and be able to respond to that? Whatever it is, just have a clear idea of why you're there and act accordingly. Make that the central point of what you do in social media. The next thing is, think about your audience. Everything you say should have some value to your target audience. So if you're going to be on social media, don't just repost things. Don't just share other people's content. Have your own spin on it. Make sure that you're adding something to the conversation. The third thing, and I think this is something that actually lawyers can be quite concerned about, is care. And that's actually care of your own reputation as well as care of your network. So you have to keep those professional goals in mind at all times. The most important thing is not to criticize or disparage other firms or companies, because you really don't know what relationships they might have with your clients or with your peers or anybody else. So keep things really positive. Keep things really about insights and general trends rather than specific commentary on very specific companies or individuals. And the last thing then is to really engage. The whole point of social media is to extend your relationships online and potentially to spark new ones and to spark interest for what you're talking about. So try and be really active. Don't just sit there passively and listen or share things that other people have written. Try and add something to the conversation. So we're actually going to share a much more detailed guide on social media with you after this session via email, so please do look out for that. It has some great tips in there on how you can run your social media and get the most out of it. So I hope you'll enjoy that. So finally, just to wrap up this portion of the session today, I want to talk about lead capture. So lead capture for law firms is obviously really around prospect development. So what's the ultimate goal of building your reputation about content? It's to help to win new clients. That's the winning part of this presentation. So what you're going to achieve by putting your content out there into the right channels, reaching the right audiences, is that you will find prospects who are interested in your content and who will engage with you on your content. You then want to bring them to your content hub. So you might release some snippets of your content out via various channels, whether it's social, email, whatever else, the things we discussed. And then you're going to bring them to your content hub, so maybe your website or your blog. And then when they get there, you have to give them a way to capture their details and to share those with you. And that can be through, inquiry forms, making sure that your content is gated, meaning they have to enter the details before they get it, and making sure that there's some sort of an automated follow-up and sales process behind that lead capture. Don't rely on just giving your phone number or just giving an email to get in touch. That's just leaving it to chance. You've put all this effort into content development. You want to make sure that when leads actually come and are reading your content or viewing your content, that they have an opportunity to get in touch with you that's really easy. And this is expected today. People expect to transact online, especially now that law has become so much more digitized, particularly through COVID. So this is actually where I am going to hand over to Tyler. Tyler's going to show you what happens next, and he is going to really cover the wowing part of this presentation.
Once you've gotten Actionstep to a point of being able to actually capture these leads, and once you've got the content marketing, you can use Actionstep to capture web forms, to log marketing campaigns, to track your ROI, and to actually get some good visibility over the actions that you're taking and the return that you're actually getting. So I think first things first to just cover with you are really how can you capture leads with web forms, and then how can you log that as a marketing campaign. So many of you will have probably heard of web forms with Actionstep if you're on our Pro or Pro Plus Accounting versions of Actionstep, then you will have web forms built into your system. So if you go to more here, actually at the top, and you go to web forms, just going to minimize, go to webinar there we go. If you go to web forms, now these are all of the different forms that I have created in this personal system. If you don't see any of those, that's just because you haven't created one yet. So all you have to do is go to Form Manager, click New Web Form, and then you'll be able to start creating the form that you can then post on your website for this new sort of leads to come in and actually submit with you. So I imagine if you've got different content, or maybe if you want to leave a little bit of a teaser on the website saying, hey, submit this form and we'll send you maybe another piece of information or another document, people can then submit the web form, and then it's actually going to come in here into a triaged system for you to process their information in your system and then actually send them out that content as well. So other interesting things that you can actually do as well with web forms and making it even easier to capture data with Actionstep is web forms can also be hooked up with different bots as well. So just showing you an example of this on your website, you can actually have it so that bots like this, so this is one of our integration partners, Joseph, actually interact with the web form as well. So I can see here that as I go ahead and enter in all my details here, the bot is actually interacting with me and asking me more questions. And by the time I finish this interview, that's actually going to end up as a web form on my website as well, or sorry, in Actionstep. So once you've actually got the web form, you've processed it and you've gotten it into Actionstep, really then it's about, well, how do you actually measure that in Actionstep? So you might have created a matter out of this, the person might end up becoming a client, and you want to track, you want to track this marketing and you want to track what your ROI has been. So one of the first things that I'll point you to is in Actionstep. In many systems, this is actually just a standard matter type that we include in pretty much every system. It's actually called the sales and CRM matter type, and there's also marketing activity, and there's marketing campaigns that are a part of most Actionstep systems. If you are currently looking in your Actionstep system and you don't see that there, you can actually just go to our website, just go to actionstep.com and go to the add-ins section, and you'll find the this sales CRM. It also includes the marketing matter types as well. It's a free add-in that you can put into your Actionstep system so that you can start doing some of the stuff that I'm showing you. So just head to our website, download that, and then you'll have that in your Actionstep system. So once you actually create a marketing campaign, this is essentially what it will look like. So you'll have this overview of the campaign where you basically post how long has it started from, when is that ending, how much has it costed you. Obviously, some of these things, there's lots of free ways to do content marketing with, just post from your LinkedIn account or posting it on your blog, or any of those sorts of things. But if you're actually spending any amounts of money on these sorts of things, that like going to maybe paying to go to an event, or maybe you actually pay to run some LinkedIn ads or any of those things, you're going to want to actually track how much you're spending on that and then how much income that you derive from it. So I can see in this campaign here, I've just created one, Australian Events 2020. I've got here $50,000 in expenses. I'm hoping for 100,000 there, and I'm gonna create matters from a few different types there. You can log individual activities as well. So I've actually got here an event, maybe Outma 2020, which is also its own event, its own marketing activity as well, that has its own budget, its own forecasted income amount that I'm hoping to get from it, with its own ROI as well. You can track expenses against this, and you can also log matters against these marketing campaigns as well. So how do you actually do that? You've had a lead come in, you've had a conversation with them, they've signed your cost agreement, and you're actually going to get to do some proper work because of this marketing that you've done. And how do you log that? Well, if you simply go into a matter here, so I've just got Actionstep general advice as the matter in Actionstep, you'll probably see here when you go to billing in the matter, you've got your fees, disbursements, invoices, payments, and then you'll have an area here called sales and marketing. So simply click into that and you'll be able to fill in lots of information here, and you'll actually be able to log that information, this matter, to that specific campaign. So I can see here ROI, I met this person at Outma, that's where I've actually gotten this work from. And that means that I can now see that now that I've actually billed that amount, I can see I received $7,500 worth of income from this campaign. So considering I spent 15,000, I still haven't even met half of my expenses yet. And that's the same here with the overall yearly campaign of just all of my Australian events. So again, I've spent 50,000 there and I'm forecasting 100,000. I'm obviously still a long way to go on actually meeting the amount that I've spent. So that's some of the key ways that you can have web forms come in, how you can create marketing campaigns in Actionstep, and how you can actually log matters against your activities so you can actually start tracking what ROI you're getting from those. Trina, I might just quickly hand back to you so you can just finish off maybe with the final slides, just showing the contact details if anyone has any further questions.
We just are wrapping up, but I just wanted to show you if you want to get in touch with us. Like I say, we'll follow up with an email with the slides and with the recording, and Tyler's details will be in that, and also the details for our support team. If you have any questions or if you need any more advice from a marketing point of view, please do feel free to get in touch with myself. So like I say, all of those details will be in our follow-up email, so look out for that. That's it. Thank you very much.